Hi, everyone, and welcome to The New Normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa. And today we have a treat. This is originally being aired live for Patreon users only. And then, eventually we'll share the good news with the public. But we definitely want to support SL369 crypto and my Litecoin Lisa's Patreons. And so we're bringing you guys information from the other side. Just a disclaimer, none of us are financial advisors. None of this is financial advice. So make sure to do your own research. All of this is for entertainment and education purposes only. We'll be right back with SL369 and Jill Jardine. And we're back. Thanks everybody who's for watching. SL, thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited to meet Jill. You've brought us another really talented. She's an astrologist as well as a psychic, and has a lot of other things that she does in the woo-woo world and the community. I was checking into her website, and she's doing some different healing as well as some other things. So how did you find Jill?
Yes, so Jill, way back in the beginning of the year, our mutual friend had a reading with her and mentioned a couple of things really interesting about crypto, about personal life, and also she pretty much like nailed some of personal prediction for her daughter, very specific stuff. And I know that astrologer has like date, they tell you specific date, like to the exact, sometimes like day, something will happen. And I was curious about Jill's talent, so I reached out to Jill at the beginning of the year. I had a reading with her, and I listened to the recording one or twice after my reading. Fast forward in the end of May, my friend mentioned Jill again. Then I look back at then I re-listened to my reading, and then I realized that she nailed a bunch of personal prediction for me. One is, she said, in April, May, June, you will have a thought of want to move, which I did. My initial plan is in April. That, the seed plan in my head is in April. Then I move at the end of May. So she nailed that.
Wow.
That's incredible. Then she said in April, the market will have a correction. Bitcoin have correction in April and May. Then she said on February 11, BTC will have a big rise. They did that. And then she said, and then I had like some paperwork that I have been waiting forever to hear back from them. About 5 months after I had my reading with her, the paperwork came through. So that took forever. But some of those stuff, I was really impressed. I had no, like, certain thing I just write off. So I'll never hear from them again, but it came through. So it's really comforting to have that confirmation and accurate predictions. So then I returned to her a few weeks ago and had her readings, and I really enjoyed it. She advised me a ton of different things, make some predictions. She predicted the crypto market will have a rally in August, and then September, October, and then November. Then I share my reading with my Discord and Patrons group. A handful of them have had a reading with her, and I really like her reading as well. So what she said for I agree. What she said for December and the upcoming rally, I think is really important. So I asked her if she can join you and I and provide that same kind of prediction to the community, so everyone can be alert, prepare for what's coming up in the next few months.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much. I want to Welcome, Jill. I'm
Hi,
just so excited to have you
Lisa.
here. Yes, thanks for joining us. SL has so many great things to say about you and what you're doing for the community with your gifts. I wonder if you could kind of tell our community when you first started experiencing your gifts, or what your journey is, kind of what your history is, and where your strengths come from.
Sure, Lisa, and thank you so much for inviting me on, Lisa and SL, who, as you've all heard, I've done some readings for in person. And I want to thank SL for introducing me to her Patreon group. As we were talking off mic and off camera, that I've had wonderful experiences. They're very conscious people. We can get back to that later. And my theories on the people who get involved in crypto. But as far as the work I've been doing, I've been an astrologer and psychic since I was a teenager, which was many moons ago. And I did it throughout my teens and 20s, sort of as fun for, I do little parties for people and I would do the readings. And I went and got a master's degree in counseling psychology to legitimize it in 1991. And so I have actually been working as a professional. Since the early 90s, late 80s, around the Boston area. And I have quite a big following, but it's international as well. But when I first started reading astrology, I just felt like I knew it intuitively. And I used to have a lot of visions as a teen, well, really going back into I was as a child, but the thing that I like about astrology is that it's, especially for left brain people, it's a way that when you show them the chart, even though they don't understand the glyphs or the symbols, it's a way to almost like anchor spiritual and psychic energy and kind of bring it in through a funnel. But, cards, I do tarot cards. I used to, and I can read, I used to do, get people's rings and hold it. So really any modality, but I like the astrology because it gives you the timing. And I've been trained in a lot of other healing modalities. I used to do actually a lot of hands-on healing, acupuncture without needles, hypnotherapy. So, I mean, I don't want to go on because I do have an extensive background, including the master's in counseling, but I've always had this psychic gift. And, in my belief system, it's because I've done this before. I facilitate past life regression work, and I used to teach it, and I've had many, but I understand where I get the astrology from now. I definitely had a past life as a Jyotish, which is the Sanskrit name for astrologer in India. So I definitely have, this isn't my first astrological rodeo, so to speak. So I actually also do Vedic astrology now, although I've been doing the Western astrology, and that's what we're going to talk about today is Western astrology as opposed to the Vedic, of which I'm trained in also. And I do bring it in because I like the Vedic because you can give the remedies based on people's Vedic chart, which I have been doing to the people are signing up. And that's what they get in a reading. I just want to, they'll get their Western chart. They'll get the channeling that comes through. And they will get the Vedic astrology with the remedies, such as Sanskrit mantra remedies, of which I'm initiated in a lineage of Sanskrit mantra from my lineage of gurus in India. Both who are passed away, actually. So I'm one of the few carrying the lineage. But the mantras are a vibrational healing tool, and they're a remedy for if you are having some issues in your chart, or you actually want to bring in a vibration of, let's say, more prosperity if you're investing in crypto. So the Sanskrit mantras help with that. And then I also give the gem remedies, like according to people's Vedic chart, there's gem remedies that will help them in their life in general, but they may be related to their house of luck and fortune to help increase that. So these are some of the offerings that I have. And my website is jilljardineastrology.com. So people can book readings and see the offerings, which is what SL Patreons have been doing. And I want to thank everybody who's done that. And again, my thanks to SL for, kind of sharing my information with her following, who, as I said, are very, very conscious people. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm have been checking. I did a little research and was really impressed with all the modalities that you have to reach this information, and I just really excited to have you on. I thought we might also tell people a little bit about your podcast, because that has a lot of resource on it. I was kind of going through this, listening, kind of trying to hit some of these different Sanskrit mantras that you spoke of, and then you also had an astro update. So you post pretty regularly. There's a lot of content and information on there for people, as well as reaching you on your website directly. And can you talk a little bit about, we were just before we went on, we got to share that you prefer people not to have like a direct booking on your website, but to actually contact you first.
Well, I like them to, they can go and pay for what kind of reading they want, but I don't have a schedule, although that will be coming. I don't have an actual schedule where they can book. I do like it, so for them to book it, and then I will get the notification they booked it, and then we will be in touch, because that's how I schedule, because I already energetically and cyclically will start getting a feel from the first contacts with them through their email. And, that's when I ask for their birth information. And that's when we come to, I am on East Coast time, and a lot of the people are contacting me are in other parts of the world. So we coordinate our time, to schedule the actual reading in a Zoom. So it's been really, good. And I mean, I have assistants, but I don't usually use them for this, because it's an energetic that I like. I've always had this where I've booked my own clients. I've had assistants in the past too try to do it for me, but I feel like there's an energetic disruption when I don't get to have that kind of contact. So I have them doing some of my other work for me. My podcast, I want to get back to that. Thank you for introducing everybody. This was sort of, it came out of COVID when we went on lockdown in the Boston area. A friend of mine was already doing a dating podcast that I think people, if they're interested in that, should check it out. Shot at Love by Carrie Brett. And so she already had the studio all set up, and she was already doing it. And she's like, come on, we want to start a network. And I said, okay, let's do it. So I started the day we went into lockdown. It was her, myself, and our engineer. We have a great professional engineer who ran a recording studio in Ireland. But anyway, just started cranking out the first 6 in those first 2 weeks of COVID. And then it took on a life of its own. And it's, I basically do one episode a week. And so it started out as astrological. So every month there's going to be the forecast for the upcoming month. It usually is out by the first of the month. Don't have July's out yet, but those podcasts, the astrology podcast for the month, tends to deliver all month long. Then I started to bring out the Sanskrit mantra teachings, because it is an audio modality, sound. So the Sanskrit is something I'm initiated in, and they're very powerful when you hear them coming through a really nice audio delivery system. And then there's guests. I have guests, and Lisa and SL are going to be my guests in a couple of weeks, and we'll have I feel like we need to do a series of at least 3 podcasts on crypto with your information and with your intelligence on that. And then there's things like the past life regression, all kinds of things spiritual, all of which come from my experience. I've been teaching this to people for years. So it's like, okay, I'm going to put all these teachings into a podcast format. And so that's been the gift of the COVID lockdown and afterwards. So thank you for sharing that with everybody.
Yeah, I think that's really an important thing. And I guess like you had kind of mentioned, one of the things you're seeing in the people in crypto is this different vibration. And it looks like you're even looking at must be in common with these enlightened souls, because you're looking at something that most people see very negative as, here's something great that came out of that. Yeah. So I appreciate that, looking on the bright side.
I've been into the cutting edge paradigm since I was a teenager, but really in the late 80s and 90s. Some of my teachers were Barbara Han-Clow, she wrote the Palladian Agenda. She's been a cutting edge teacher. She wrote books on Chiron, and a book that was originally called The Liquid Light of Sex, which is about astrology transits, such as the Uranus opposition that happens at midlife. So, I mean, I've had some great teachers myself on the, new paradigm since the late 80s, really. And so now finally it's here, many years later, and now everybody, I'm so glad that I'm not such a rogue person who's, people want to call, woo woo or a witch or whatever, that everybody's the collective is, or a partial part of the collective is catching up with this higher wisdom and consciousness or esoteric knowledge. So it's really refreshing on this end to see that we are having an awakening on the planet. And I do feel the crypto community, for the most part, are part of that, because I want to share something. It seems like everybody who I've done a reading for so far, they really want to share the wealth that they are embodying, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but they want to share the wealth. It's there. I don't see a greed factor, really. It's really, they want to help other people, where they're family members, or they want to start a community of conscious people, or they have like plans to help others, whether family or other greater community, which I think that's the way wealth is supposed to be used, isn't it?
Absolutely. I know one of the things I do on my channel is I do crypto journeys, and that's how I got started with my podcast or YouTube channel. And my last question is always, what is your crypto dream or goal? And I have yet to have somebody say buy a Lambo. All the people and I think it's interesting also to certain projects. And I don't know if this is something you've noticed, but it seems to me that certain vibrations or types of people are drawn to different projects in crypto as well. I know there's like I'm a big part of the Litecoin fam, and there's just this really loving, benevolent group of people that I've been exposed to through Litecoin fam. And then you see other projects who have a little more aggressive, kind of locker room kind of groups to them. Not that it's good or bad. It's interesting. It's something I've noticed. I don't know if that's something that you see or feel as well.
Well, I haven't really been able to qualify what their crypto is, which is fine. I don't need to know that, because I read better. First of all, I can read, obviously make predictions in a bigger way. But I have a master's in counseling psychology. So initially I got that to counsel people using what was back in 1991, extremely esoteric, using hypnotherapy, using astrology, using other modalities that were more psychic and out there. But, I got to remind people, I used to have to remind people in the psychological world and the psychology. And when I was getting my master's, that Carl Jung, who was the famous psychologist at the, turn of the 20th century, he was a huge advocate for astrology. And he also saw it as a way to connect with synchronicities, which we call, luck, let's say, being, doing things according to right timing. That's a synchronicity, but it's really, really being able to read these universal symbols, just like math. I mean, numbers are the same way. That's why astrology and the numbers, that's why SL comes up with the numbers as well. I mean, they are related to the laws of the universe. And in the Egyptian and in the ancient Atlantean temples, whether you want to believe it was there or not, but they had healing temples that worked with the vibration of sound, astrology, numbers, and other modalities of healing. So not the laws of the universe.
That is really interesting, especially in relating, because crypto is software, or it's math, it's algorithms,
Yeah.
And so that goes really, that gives me chills. That goes hand in hand with the astrology being math, and then those frequencies, even with the psychic things that you're seeing and feeling. So really interesting how it all really does go together hand in hand.
And we were saying this too off Mike, that everybody has their own intuition. And when you just said you got the chills, that's what I call it the Kundalini chills, or the Kundalini confirmation. That's when your body actually confirms a spiritual truth. And people need to pay attention to that, because let's say they are going to go invest, and should I go into this coin or should I do this? If they get that bodily sense of like, yes, or they feel the spine tingling, or they get any physical confirmation, there you go, there's your intuition aligning with your divine self, giving you some information,
higher self talking to you. Yeah, you just have to learn how to listen. I think we all have it. We just have to learn how to listen, for sure. Well, I want to jump into some of the questions that SL had for you, as well as just, I think we were mostly focusing on Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency market in general. Is that correct, SL?
Yes, and can your member and my member write a question in the YouTube chat?
Yeah, if you guys post a comment in the chat, I can pull it up on the screen like this. So if you do me a favor, if we know you're asking a question, if you could put it in all caps, just makes it a little easier for me to pick out what's. Sometimes you guys like to talk to each other, which is great, but I want to make sure we post the questions in the comments.
Yeah, some of the major questions I already sent that to you. I think that's like the burning questions.
Oh, in an email.
Oh, I can remind you.
I think it was from our text earlier,
Yes,
right?
yes, I can ask.
Okay, go ahead.
So one of the questions they want to know is currency. Currently Bitcoin is going through correction, like the whole entire month of June, almost like June is almost over, and the market has been going down. They want to know, has we hit the bottom?
Okay, you know what's very interesting, SL? Remember, you sent me, I want to just confirm that you sent me this Bitcoin natal chart information is January 10th, 2014 in Idaho Falls, Idaho, around 12, well, we said 12 o'clock.
Oh, that is, Jill, that is for Digibyte.
Oh, okay. Do you know the Bitcoin? Okay, because I was just going on that. All right, then that's null and void. We won't deal with that. And the other thing, I got to let people know, as an astrologer psychic, I do not get the same kind of visions as you do, with like the zeros and with numbers. I just look at the astrology and I see this is an up cycle, this is a down cycle. I can't really predict numbers the way that. Although when SL has given me numbers, I'm like no or yes. You know, I can kind of confirm it won't go that low. And you know, right, SL, from the time I read for you, I don't really give you what it's going to go because I'm not that specific. That's my gift. I don't, you know, for my guides, that would be almost like, oh, we can't get that technical. We have to, you know, just give you the energetic that we're feeling. So I just want to let your people know that too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we have a couple questions in the comments. Mostly everyone's focused on Shiba and asking, which I know, Jill, you just said you don't give specific numbers.
Yeah. What I will say about Shiba, though, I can share some stuff about Shiba if you want me to. Okay, so there's something, again, I work with vibration and sound frequency a lot. That's, you know, mantras are related to that. And the thing that I kind of liked about Shiba, and especially when SL kind of cued me, and I try to stay very, like the less I know, you guys might think this is funny, but the less I actually know technically, the better I do. Because again, my guides don't like to get caught up in the weeds, so to speak. So I do have people in my life who know it very technically, and they ask me questions, and I give them the what I feel about it. So the thing I like about Shiba is that it has a very nice vibration. It kind of rhymes with Shiva, who is a Vedic deity. And I just felt like there's something about it energetically right now. And I want to say that I just, for Shiba and maybe Bitcoin, but again, I'm not making predictions. I'm not an investment or professional, but energetically, there is going to be something very interesting at the, somebody has the actual chart, it looks like, of Shiba. Okay, so August 22nd is going to be a full moon in Aquarius. And something I want to say about crypto, I do feel it's very Aquarian connected, and Uranian, the planet that rules Aquarius, which means that it's ahead of its time. It's a little cutting edge. And the glyph for Aquarius is like lightning. It's like, so it tends to go up and down, up and down, up and down. But August 22nd, I think, is going to be a very interesting day in the crypto world because it's a full moon with the moon in Aquarius conjunct Jupiter. Jupiter being the expansive archetype in astrology, conjunct the moon in Aquarius. Now, as I said, I've kind of tracked crypto over the years as being a very Aquarian pursuit. So I do feel this is going to be a good cycle for things kind of coming back. Or, I mean, and again, in your crypto world, it's like, is it good to invest, or is it good when it goes up and you make money, right? So I want to say that probably that full moon is going to be, might be like, okay, a moon is a completion of a cycle. So this dropping that's going on, it's almost like that will be the cycle when it's time, it will come up after that. So as far as people, you know, I guess that would be the marker when, okay, it's going to drop between now and the 22nd, and then it will probably come back. Just because don't forget full moons. We just had a full moon on the 24th of June, and that's a cycle, full cycle. So, you know, the moon is, you know, a different type of rulership, but it does, if something gets initiated, sometimes there's the end of a cycle. So I would say that that's what I'm going to correlate it to, without getting to zeros and things, that probably it is going to drop as we get closer to that August full moon, which is going to be sort of the beginning of another cycle.
So you see it dropping between now,
probably an upward market trend. You know, as I said, Ocean Breeze is asking. I think it's going to be very up and down. I also see a big marker time in January 2022, January and February. So I think we're going to have, you know, people ask me, when's the big takeoff? I don't feel it's this year. Okay. So if that helps.
Okay. So we have some people asking about market recovery in July. So is it, I just want to clarify what you just said about leading up to the full moon of August 22nd. You feel like that full moon is the launch, or we're leading up to the market will rise up to the full moon of August 22nd?
No, I think that's the launch.
That's the launch. Okay. So we're looking at more bouncing around sideways.
It's going to be a little more erratic. The other reason why July is kind of a weird month, I mean, I think it's going to be, astrologically, it's actually going to be a good month for people personally. We don't have the stressors that we had in June. May and June were very volatile months astrologically, because we had two eclipses. We had an eclipse at the end of May. We also had Mercury retrograde. And then in June, we had the solar eclipse on June 10th. We had Mercury going retrograde until the 22nd of June. So that was like kind of a free for all, you know, dropping. July is a month out from the eclipses. Okay. So sometimes that month out from the eclipse, the first full month out, you really can't get the clear picture. That's why I'm thinking August is when things are going to start we're going to start seeing things coming back and stabilizing. July is not a bad month astrologically. In fact, a friend of mine who's an astrologer also thinks that that's going to win the Cosmic Award. She calls it the Cosmic Award of 2021, but I think she means more just for it being more calm and less erratic. And that would probably go to the financial markets as well, and crypto. Where then August, we're building for almost like this next phase. So in investing and stuff, low prices now, it's like, yeah, they'll probably July, it's not like they're going to go up, but they might be less diving.
Interesting. So on my show, we talk about the vote a lot, especially on Tuesdays, on my New Truth Tuesday. And there are some rumors that Steve Bannon had leaked out that Trump would be back by August 15th. You're mentioning August 22nd, talking about cryptocurrency. Someone in the chat asked, is Trump coming back? And that we know there's a big celebration. I have the honor of speaking at Mount Rushmore next weekend for 4th of July. And there's been some rumors that General Flynn might have an announcement. Is any of that do you see any of that or something happening in the U.S. Significant event?
I mean, this is what I remember last year that in Vedic astrology, and even I was looking at it in the Western, that the charts of both, this is why, you know, people are like, what are you going to think? You know, I just try to stay, you know, I don't really get into the politics that much, but I have had accurate predictions. and the reason why I felt like you know, both Trump and Biden are due for some big health issues. I'm going to share that piece. And actually, August of this year into September was part of it. But, you know, again, that's the political piece aside. It's more of like they both had things affected in their chart. And, you know, so around eclipses last year, the eclipse that had the full moon in Sagittarius and the sun in Gemini activated Donald Trump's natal. He's born with a natal lunar eclipse in the same sign. So I had told people that was going to be problematic, you know, whether people like it or not, because I try to come from at the vibration I work with. And as I've told clients over the years, you know, I'm not being pulled down into the polarity of politics. I try to vibe above it and see both sides of it. But what I saw last year, and I told people, because a lot of other astrologers did say, anyway, so that eclipse created problems for him. And there was just another eclipse that happened and activated that same Gemini and Sagittarius axis, which Donald Trump has his natal sun in Gemini with the South Node and moon in Sagittarius with the North Node. So he's been affected by that. And that's why maybe things have not been clear. Let's just put it that way. But the point is that this eclipse pattern finally breaks up. And there will be no more, you know, oh yeah, there's one more Sagittarius eclipse, the 9th of, in December 4th, I believe. But anyway, so the point is that once we get, eclipses are tough when they fall on any of your natal planets and when you're born on an eclipse. So I think that was a big problem astrologically that he had to go through. But I do feel that also is an indicator of some health issues. And then Biden's chart, he's got a lot, I forget exactly what it was. I have to look at that chart again, but there is something with some issues around health and vitality that are going to come up as we get closer to November. September through November. I said August, but really September through November, because then the eclipses change in November, on November 19th to Scorpio and Taurus. Biden's at Scorpio, so he's going to be in the eclipse window for the next 3 years. I'm sorry, next year and a half. The eclipses tend to go for a year and a half. You're going to have 3 cycles of eclipses. So he's going to be stepping into that ecliptic window on his natal Scorpio planets, which, you know, that's a tough one to navigate.
Very interesting. Just one more question before I want to get back to crypto and talk about SL's predictions, as well as how the two of you in your conversation, what you were seeing together. We have somebody asking, Monzi, which is one of my friends, do you see the silver manipulation ending? If so, when?
Yeah, so interesting. So silver would be very much affected by moon in astrology, okay? It's the color of the moon. And I also think it has a correlate to the planet Uranus. So I would say, you know, Uranus, the planet Uranus, is going to be going, it's retrograde. So when it goes direct, I feel that is going to affect the silver manipulation. And let me get you the date on Uranus going direct. So it's October 6th. Pluto goes direct on October 6th, but that's not what I'm talking about here. The planet Uranus. I'm going to look in my old astrology book for Uranus going direct. And I think that's related to this silver manipulation. Actually, it does not go direct. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about, I'm looking ahead. I was looking at the full moon. Uranus goes retrograde right before the full moon on the 22nd of August. So I think the retrograde Uranus cycle that begins August 20th, right before the full moon, okay, which is an Aquarian full moon, so starting on August 20th, but I think the month of October, for some reason, I'm just getting psychically with this silver manipulation. More, it's going to we're going to give it a little while for Uranus to get out of it's good to go backwards and let things kind of reboot and resettle.
And be revealed maybe to
Yeah,
people.
exactly,
So
to
it won't be revealed by October, but it
And
might
there's gonna
happen.
be- I got to be honest, there's going to be revelations of all types, you know, whether they're pretty much in every arena that I think your listeners are interested in. There's going to be a lot of, because we're not even that month out from that Gemini and Sagittarius, which is all about information and information manipulation and information that's being hidden. So we're not even in that month out. I think that's why July is kind of mellow, because the SHI what blank hasn't hit the fan. This is going to be kind of like, especially with the Aquarian. So there's 2 Aquarian full moons this summer, which I think is crazy. The first one's going to be the 23rd of July. And that could be when things start getting a little bit, start like basically starting to get revealed. But I really think it takes till August. And then we have an Aquarian full moon on August 22nd. Aquarius is about the people and, basically the group consciousness, not just the individual or the control group, those in power who are controlling. It's more about people waking up. I think we're going to see a lot of people waking up. And I also feel the fallout from Sagittarius, Gemini eclipses is a lot of disclosure of information that was withheld or hidden. So I'm going to give everybody that one, and they can apply it to whatever arena that they want to. I think it's going to be across the board. The other thing is that there's a lot of endings that happen in the month after an eclipse, a lot of deaths. And this is just kind of an aside, but it's like, a lot of celebrities die. So that shows you that there's a lot of people leaving their bodies in general after an eclipse. And it's usually that month after, but can be up to 3 months after. And again, up to 3 months after June, let's say, would take us July, August, September. And that's when a lot of September through November, a lot of the crypto stuff is going to start really coming into what it is, what it will be going forward, so to speak.
Very interesting. I did have somebody ask, do you feel like the bottom for Bitcoin is in?
Has it hit the bottom yet?
Yeah.
You mean like on, let's say, today's date? I don't think yet.
Not yet.
No.
So Jill,
not as of today's date. Yes, SL.
Yes. So my friend is an astrologer as well. Her name is Maya, and she used this date to read Bitcoin.
Oh, okay.
She used the date where the pizza guy spent 10,000 Bitcoin to buy a pizza on May 22nd, 2010, at 2:16 in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay, I'm going to pull that up. I don't think I can show it. What time was it? 2:10, you said? 2:10 p.m.?
2:15.
2:30.
This is 2:16.
Okay, so May 22nd, 2010, 2:32 p.m. in Jacksonville, Florida?
2:16 p.m. in Jackson.
Oh, Jackson, Florida?
Jacksonville. I'm sorry, Florida.
Florida. All right. This will give us quite a bit of information now. Thank you. All right. Thanks for doing that research. And that's what you guys all do. You do the research and we're the psychics and we read it. Okay. So interesting. It's going to be very interesting. So Bitcoin, very interesting. It's a Gemini. Oh, wow. And these eclipses. Okay. So the eclipse on May 26th, actually, the sun was sort of a solar return, but it was the sun of Bitcoin was involved in that eclipse. So that's why we won't really know for 6 months out. I mean, but the stabilization may be coming before that, 6 months out from the eclipse on May 23rd. The other thing that's interesting about the Bitcoin chart, it's got a Moon Saturn conjunction in Virgo, which is more like a slow, Virgo is, that's an interesting thing, but it has what we call a Gajeshkari yoga in Vedic astrology, which is sort of a good luck yoga because Jupiter opposes the moon. All right, next year, Bitcoin's going to have its Jupiter return. That's a big, huge deal. All right. I'm just going to see what that date is. And I think this is when it, if it hasn't taken off already. So the Jupiter return for Bitcoin, this is a like ding, 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 ding moment astrologically for Bitcoin based on that chart you gave me, May 22nd, 2010, 2:16 p.m., Jacksonville, Florida. So the Bitcoin Jupiter return is April and May 2022. that should expand. Jupiter is an expansive element in astrology. That's the first Jupiter return that Bitcoin will be experiencing, because Jupiter return is every 12 years. So I think that's something to think about, everybody. That timing.
Very interesting. Well, I guess that goes, do you see, we have several friends that see kind of a crash towards the end of the year for Bitcoin, either late November or December. A 90% pullback is what Cliff High had mentioned, and I think Maya had seen some of that as well. Do you see any of that?
Well, I had been predicting, I mean, we could get into some of my bigger predictions, that economically, I think it's going to be a tough time in November and December. And I would attribute that to the eclipse in Scorpio and Taurus. Full moon with the sun in Scorpio and the moon in Taurus. Scorpio and Taurus rule financial markets in general, like the regular markets, I would say. That's
so
what
all markets, not just crypto. You're seeing.
Exactly. And there's been big crashes. Like I'm not going to go back and remember dates, but you think about the crash, the stock market crash, and the
Black Monday.
Yes, that was when the sun was in Scorpio. But anyway, so that I think November and December are going to be a little grim in general, economically, which would also probably bring down some of the crypto. I don't, and I don't like doing negative projections, but it just is, it's a time to be aware of that there's actually an eclipse that rules the money markets happening for the first time in 19 years. So we need to think about that. And that, the regular, and I think that it's going to affect the housing market too, where things are really overinflated and there's no inventory. I've been telling, I have a lot of realtors as clients, and they don't want to hear, because they're having their heyday, but like people who are looking to buy homes, or, in most major markets, the inventory is very limited. So I think there's going to be a shifting that starts around November, but we won't really see that, where properties will become available in, prices that aren't like overinflated, until the spring of 2022, which would be the companion eclipse to the one that's going to happen in November 2021.
Very interesting. So we have MYG Paris saying, do you see problems in crypto because of China? And I guess they're asking if any of that has to do with the Three Gorges Dam and the noise around it collapsing.
I don't know. I'm not getting any hits on the dam, but I do feel that there's, the other thing about this Gemini Sagittarius eclipse pattern and Gemini pattern, it's about information. And I think that, and people, I predicted that there was going to be a while back about hacks. I've been predicting that since 2016, but I literally the week before they hacked the gas pipeline, I said we're going to be more open to hacking from, the usual suspects, let's say, Russia, China, wherever, into our economic systems, which would include crypto. And I just feel there's going to be a move when Saturn, Saturn's in the sign Aquarius, and it's going retrograde, and it's in there all next year. I think there's going to be a bigger focus on encryption and security, even more of crypto for some reason, if that makes sense to people. I'm getting that psychically, and that's next, but that will be next year.
That would go hand in hand with, we did a video about Digibyte and them they're using a program called Atom ID, or a integration with Atom ID to do more encryption of logins, password, that kind of stuff. And actually Microsoft 365 implementing that. And then Maya had seen in the Vedic chart for Digibyte government contracts, which we know what's going on.
I saw that too. I've seen that last year. But I didn't know that about the encryption. That's just, it was just coming through very psychically, something about April, May, June, like everybody's going to want to get, if they haven't already, on the encryption, extremely secure I think like, it's got to go. It's another level of cybersecurity. And yeah, I think that's actually one of the new growing fields of is cybersecurity. I think somebody told me their son was going to get into it. I'm like, oh, he'll be having a job for the next
Oh yeah, that's
20 to 30 years.
serious job security. That makes me think of they're talking about these disclosures that are coming out, UFO disclosures. Um, my gut's kind of telling me that it's not going to be so much aliens and what people are kind of being led to, but more about the cyber warfare that's going on. Do you have any kind of insight with those government disclosures that are supposed to come out in June? Well, they were supposed to come out in June, but
Oh,
here
yeah.
we are almost done with June.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to come out. Sorry. I mean, we've been saying this for years. It's always
Okay.
the time of disclosure, and it never is. But, I just know that people are seeing more anomalies in the skies and things like that. I mean, that's getting into a whole nother thing. But like, yeah, I mean, for years, it's funny. I've known about different conspiracies for years. I mean, if you're into any kind of healing arts or you're into astrology, that world has been around for a long time. And yeah, so that's a whole nother energetic. But the thing about like UFO, I just say look out in the sky and you're going to see some weird anomalies. But also in sort of like the let's call it the New Age movement. Yeah, they've been talking about that for years. The disclosure. The other thing is, I like kind of label everything to consciousness shifting. Like consciousness is shifting on this planet, and we're not alone in the multiverse. We're not alone. So there's got to be other conscious beings that are trying to help us make this shift.
Right.
As my old teacher Barbara Hand-Clow used to say, we're in quarantine. She kept using the word quarantine way back in 1990s. That like, oh, the planet's in quarantine. She kept saying that in the 90s until the consciousness of the people can advance, where some of the galactic the galactic, what we would call the Galactic Council, takes our planet out of quarantine because people haven't evolved far enough. And that was the big 2012 date that people who, in the conscious,
the Mayan calendar and all
yeah,
that.
the Mayan calendar in 2012, we only need like 1% of people on the planet to evolve. And, I guess we didn't get it. And I remember like channeling that if it doesn't happen by 2012, there's going to be an event in 2020, because looking at the astrology of 2020, there was the lineup of the Capricornian planets, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn. I looked at that. I said, if consciousness of the collective doesn't wake up, there'll be a big shakeup in 2020 that will wake people up. And some of us were thinking it was more earth changes stuff. But I said, no, I think it's something that's going to really hit people home, and it's worldwide, and it's going to be a consciousness shifter. So we had our second big shift here. 2012 didn't happen. Did 2020? Did people get the memo? And we just need that 1% of the population to become, conscious enough. So I think we're closer. Don't you, Lisa?
Yeah, I think that's really an exciting way to look at it, is maybe that is the disclosure, is that we quit looking for the elites, and I'm getting chills again, and the government to tell us that we're right about something, and that we do start trusting ourselves, our gut, our collective consciousness, our community more, and seeing the truth in that, and stop listening to the people that have been lying to us for so long. So
right.
that's really
it. That's the wake up. It's not about, our governments may never wake up. We have to be okay with that. And they're holding on to an old control paradigm. And so, and again, this is where kind of crypto comes in. It's distribution of wealth. I mean, there's people who want to be holding all the wealth and not have it distributed, because then people can be basically, for lack of a better word, enslaved, right? Mm-hmm. So when you start waking up and you start evolving and you start getting beyond, believing everything you hear, and you start getting the truth yourself, you are free from you're free from, and that's what's happening here. And that makes, a certain group in power very scared. So they're going to up their game, and they're going to be doing things that, I mean, this has been going on for a long time, but there's even more control, agendas in place. And this is why we need people to be very, very conscious that, freedom,
Yeah.
freedom, and that, yeah.
Definitely. And holding your crypto or your
About that, but I think your listeners know of what I am referring to.
Well, I'll have you on my show again to talk about all that stuff because I sure love going down that rabbit hole with you. SL's got a couple of questions. She says, "Can you talk about August, November rallies, and how is the August and November rally different from each other? How each rally, the one in August, and you see one in November?"
Yeah, sure, SL. That's a good question. I think August rally is just finally, in response to like, okay, we're out of the eclipse window, and let's have things kind of like reset themselves organically with the, some of these the crypto that has not been. It's going to start becoming more what we would say hopeful and optimistic. Leo is a very optimistic time. And so people are going to start getting a hint of like what the future does hold. And then with the November, which might look a little bit like, and this is where people really have to understand what looks like a tough time is also an opportunity time. So the November, it's going to be interesting because November, it'll be, I think what we're going to see is like a lot, and this is kind of the energy right now. This is why you have to be very grounded, is that there's going to be a lot of inundation of information that is not necessarily grounded in truth. And then there's the truth. And this is, again, to get back to crypto, the reason it's an energy. So it's not, and I noticed that when people align their energy with it in a certain way, that they do really well with it. So it's not like the regular money markets. And I've talked to a couple of SL's people about this, and they totally agree. And I think SL agrees with me on that one too. So despite what's happening maybe in the greater picture of the economy in November and December, when we look like we're definitely hitting, there's going to be some economic concerns and downward spirals, that it doesn't necessarily mean that crypto is going to take that hit as well, although initially it might.
Interesting. Well, and if as we see the dollar dying and it being printed into nothing, then it really could, if there is a reset or revaluing at some point, maybe everything goes to zero or is affected significantly, and then gets kind of reset from there.
But again, with crypto being connected to people's consciousness, I would say that that's an important marker, an important delineation.
So do you see more people coming into the crypto market this year, like after the August pump through the end of the year, and then, or is it maybe not until next spring?
Well, I think it's this year. And I think that the problem is that, if you talk, there's such a lack of education and fear around it. I've talked to people, if you're over, let's say, getting close to over 45 to 50, there's it's definitely a generational thing. Because what they call the millennials, but I call the kids born in the 90s. So the millennials, those are the 80s, I would say millennials are more the 1980s, up till like 90, 91, 92. 93, we had a Uranus Neptune conjunction Capricorn, which brought on what I call the indigo children, and then from 92 forward to about 2000, actually, it's only a small time. I would say 91 can get linked in, but the 90s kids are very different. They're what we call the indigo children. I don't know if people remember that from the 90s and 2000s. These kids have a lot of Aquarius and Capricorn in their charts. So, they're like 20s and 30s now, right? But they are here to break down paradigms with that Capricorn conjunction in their chart, really the mid 90s too. It switches a little when we get to the late 90s because they end up having all the Aquarius. So they're really, kind of aligned with what's coming next. But that early to mid 90s, they're all about the breakdown of that conjunction Uranus, which is the change maker. Uranus Neptune conjunction, breaking through the illusions of what was coming before them. And we are way behind schedule, and that group is getting antsy. That's why I think there's, the world was supposed to be a much different place than what they incarnated into. And so I think that's why a lot of them have the ADHD and anxiety and were spectrum-y. but they're really gifted and they're coming into their own now. And then the group after them, so the kids, let's say 2001 to 2010 is a whole nother generation. I mean, then we also we have astrological generations. I'm just doing kind of decade for simplicity here. They're very different. They're very aligned with technology almost too much. They need to get back to earth. And then we have very evolved, what we call crystal or star children that start coming in and later in the 2000s and even up till now.
Well, I've raised a couple of those kids in those in
yeah,
that span that you've been
Lisa.
talking about. Yeah, I have 5 kiddos, and so my 2 oldest are into the 90s and actually at 98 and 99, and I can tell you you're dead on with that. And then my littlest is 10 years old, so he was 2010, and he is such a star child.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about that before the recording, how empathic he is, and the challenges that brings being on the earth, and as I thought it was a really great point where you talked about, because they were supposed to be incarnated, the world should have been different for this time that they were intended to be incarnated. Yeah. So we've got to reset that schedule. Sandy is asking, and a lot of people are really excited about hearing your response. Do you see the IRS going away?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Let's all manifest that.
But what's funny? I think that they're. I think I was talking to somebody about this one. I think they're having a hard time with tracking crypto, right? Mm-hmm. Again, there's an elusiveness to it, where the traditional systems of tracking income and tracking don't tell them that. But I think there's again, because crypto is it's an energetic of almost like the future as opposed to the past, obviously, that there's an elusive energetic. And so that I think around tracking it might be a problem. And I don't even think the IRS is caught up to, how did they track the crypto and the crypto mm-hmm. earnings. I don't even think it's fully in place, to be quite honest.
Interesting.
I mean, it's funny with the IRS because, it's old institution, I don't know. I don't think they have enough human power. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of confusion around it at this point. I mean, I know so many people who, still haven't gotten tax returns and things like that. I mean, they're tax refunds, and I mean, that's quite for no apparent reason. So I just think because of COVID, everything's been thrown into like a bit of a tailspin, and certainly trying to catch up with crypto may not, may take them a while. Let's just put it that way.
Definitely. Well, SL has some information or some questions for you about crypto price action. So I'm going to let her hit you up with those. SL, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So Jill, right now is the end of June, and cyclically, I feel that the market hasn't hit the bottom. My sales guy told me that it could go to 27.1K, like 27,000 and 25,000. They also provide me a bunch of lower price predictions without timeline. So do you agree that the market hasn't hit the bottom? What do you think?
Well, I think I mentioned that earlier, that I still feel like it's still going down. Yeah. So I would concur with your guides on that.
And then July, there's I think astrologically there's some unfavorable day in July. So I think before mid-July, the market can go either sideways or down a little bit. I don't think it will rebound that quickly before mid-July, because many of my members, they are anxiously waiting for that big rise, before.
I think that that day might be the 17th. It's a last quarter moon, and there's a lot of unfavorable aspects on that day, the 17th of July.
Mm. So then basically Bitcoin is not out of the wood yet from beginning of July up into July 17. So the community is looking for information, when Bitcoin will stop falling. I mean, it's been like dripping every single day from beginning of June.
Yeah.
It's totally manipulations. They have been trying to. I don't know how they able to do that. Probably is through programming or AI, just the AI system.
Yeah.
But every day, Bitcoin is trading in the range. It was like 37, slowly go to 35, 34, 33. Now it's dancing between 32 and 31, and then sometimes it goes to 30. Secondly, I feel they haven't hit the bottom, but
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, hurry up! I want to see some Green Day.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like how I would explain this astrologically is like it's the fallout from the eclipse, and so let's get a month out from there, which would take us to the 10th, but then, which actually is right around the new moon in Cancer, but Cancer's ruled by the moon itself, lunar, and what's the moon? It's very changeable. The moon changes stages. It changes. Goes from new to 1/4 to third quarter to full. So I would say that because we're in the sign Cancer now, and we're not even a month out from the eclipses, we're still going to see this changeability. And the tide is out. Like, think about the moon. Like, we're at low tide right now. The tide is going to come back in, but probably not when the sun's going through the sign Cancer, ruled by the moon. So.
Mm-hmm. And then when I had a reading with you, you gave me some really encouraging word about the market. You said that in August, in particular August 8th and August 22nd, that's when the market have a rally. And then September, October, we have some kind of a rally as well. And then November rally will be on November 19th. The rally will be higher than August. Do you agree with that?
You mean about crypto?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's a new moon on the 8th. It's also in esoteric circles. The 8th of August is called 8/8, the Lion's Gate. So it's a very powerful time when vibrations that are, let's say, from the galactic, the higher dimensions, let's call it that, can beam in. It's a very good time for like manifestation. I want to share that with your listeners. So let's say you want to manifest, how much you want to manifest in your earnings without, and I mean, when we talk about manifesting, I want people to know that, like, don't get caught up in the weeds or be so specific. Like, I want my Bitcoin to make me $3 million by this date. That's not how it works. It's like, I want my Bitcoin or whatever coin to bring me wealth so I can buy that house and I can quit my day job. I mean, those are the manifestation intentions that are better to use around making money, because remember, crypto is more energetically, the less we make specific. And so what I want to say about the 8th, it's very powerful as far as manifestation day. And so people have been working with their manifestation of what they want to see in their portfolios. That might be a very good day for them. And, the other thing I'm seeing about crypto, it's very much connected to, like, it's weird, but it's like if a person is really optimistic and positive and puts out their intentions, man, they may do really well, where their friend might not. That's why it's very interesting how it works. But then that full moon on the 22nd is about bringing something to fruition. And it's the full moon. That's a full moon in Leo, and Leo is our heart and what gives us joy, and kind of what we want to see in our life as far as positivity and recreation and optimism. So that they're optimistic lunar cycle. So I'm attributing that to helping the crypto cycle, because it's a more optimistic energetically. Remember, I talk in terms of energy. So.
Okay, that's great. And so I know you don't get price predictions. So when the market have a rally, my spirit guide have been providing me some price prediction for Bitcoin. They told me 50,000, 61,000, 80,000. They've been telling me that over and over and over again. Like this year, I got this information 2 or 3, 4 times already. So I don't know the top price for Bitcoin by the end of the year, but I hope that we can see Bitcoin will go back to 50K, 60K, and hit 80. I have some higher price prediction for Bitcoin, but I don't have a date. So
interesting. Well, you asked me about November 19th, and that's interesting information. What my guides are yelling at me as you're talking about this, SL, is that after a loss, there's a great gain, or after a loss, so I guess we're in the loss cycle now, there's a gain. So I think that's confirming what you're saying.
yes, I feel after this manipulation is over, we will see a brighter day, and everyone is anxious to know how high we will go.
I want to go back to what I said earlier about I'm still kind of blown away about it being the Jupiter return of Bitcoin next year. So I want people to keep those dates in mind too. I mean, and if people, have previous, let me see. Let me go back and give you guys the dates of the Jupiter return for Bitcoin, which is basically April, May of 2022. So speaking of great gains, okay.
So do you think that'll be even this 80K would not be this year, spiritually or psychically?
I think there'll be a rally, as SL said, from what it is, okay? But I just think that it's almost like there's another level that comes in. There's a whole nother level that's going to come in with the Jupiter return.
What is for next year?
Yeah.
What does Jupiter return mean?
Well, in astrology, Jupiter is the great benefic. We call it the great benefic, or I like to call it the great benefactor. But so it's an auspicious. It's Venus and Jupiter in astrology are about growth. They rule money, okay, because they rule wealth. Jupiter is a wealth planet, as is Venus, and Jupiter is auspiciousness, a word we like to use a lot in Vedic astrology. Auspicious meaning good luck. And so Jupiter return happens every 12 years, which in your personal chart, think about it, it's usually 12, 20, it's 12, 24, 36, 48, and 60, and 72. These are personal Jupiter returns in people's lives, or for like a company that you form, anything on its 12th, every 12 years is considered a luck cycle. So that's ruled by the planet Jupiter. It's also correlated, if you know anything about Chinese astrology, it's also when you have your Chinese year, which I think in their tradition, it may not be considered auspicious, but it certainly in astrology, Western, it is considered an auspicious cycle. So this will be an auspicious, abundance. That's a name. Abundance and expansion are the keynotes of Jupiter. So when a planet, and interesting in the Bitcoin natal chart, that Jupiter's connected to the planet Uranus, which is the unexpected or an unusual. So Bitcoin will be expanding in unusual ways, which I would say that it's being used maybe for a currency for a major, like a country, like I know what El Salvador took it on, but maybe it's going to be used a currency for another major concern, like a major company. So that's very possible during that time cycle of late spring 2022, that unusual out of the blue. But that's why, as astrologers, we can see this stuff because astrology is ruled by Uranus. So Jupiter is going to have unexpected growth come in an unusual way. Let's just look at it that way in the spring of 2022.
So besides,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So besides spring of 2022, what other years Bitcoin will make like new highs, or the market will do much better than this year?
I don't know. It's funny because I used to do astrology predictions many years out. I mean, I have to look at some charts and things, but I'm more like, the way that we're living our lives these days, and the way that, on a spiritual path, it's like it's the present moment that creates your future reality. So I actually haven't projected that farther ahead. And, I'm going to be gathering information on that. But at this point, I can't really project even. I just look at okay, what is a couple eclipse cycles away? Or what's coming up. And then I actually get downloads pretty much about 6 months in advance of stuff. Like when an example is back in November of 2019, my guides kept telling me there's an airborne bomb that's going to be going on, because we were in an eclipse cycle that was going back to that eclipse cycle of September 11th, 2001. And so they kept telling, and I'm like, oh no, we're going to have more grounded planes. And I kept getting a confirmation, and New York is going to be hit really bad with something. But I just knew it wasn't going to be like a terrorist attack of the sort it was in 2001, right? But I was telling people, and they thought I was crazy. And that's how my guides brought the COVID information. They kept calling it an airborne bomb way before people were talking about it as being airborne. And then, it caught up about 4 months later, 5 months later, it started to get referred to as airborne. So that was the airborne bomb that I was picking up. So that's like that 6-month window I'm talking about, November 2019, getting information that would become, collective awareness, but not until 4 months later. So, you know what? You guys, I forgot. It's coming up on 5 o'clock here on the East Coast, and I actually may have to pop off because I have to do a reading.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. SL, do you want to finish up with any final questions so we can make sure to honor Jill's time?
Yes, probably the last question would be like our favorite coin right now is Shiba. So Shiba right now is really inexpensive, under a penny. So do you see like from now until like August or from now to the end of the year, we'll do really well?
I think it will. What I'm getting, and I don't really know what this, again, I know what I need to know when I need to know, especially with the crypto to advise, whatever. But what I get with Shiba, as I explained to you, SL, that it will, but I'm hearing this thing, and maybe you guys understand what this means because this is coming through my guides. There's something weird about the platforms that I don't know. There's something about something has to be cleared up with the platforms that you can get Shiba through. Do you understand that? I don't know if it's not as accessible or that there's something about the platforms of how it's bought. Do you understand that?
So right now they're trying to launch. They're working on a Shiba swap. So which means that you can go on there and buy different type of crypto.
Yeah.
So that's one major project that they're working on.
Yeah, that needs to be sorted out. I think that's kind of delaying some things for the rise of that crypto coin.
Will they finish the launch? Will they finish the project this year?
It feels like there's some complexity to it for some reason, or not complexity. The word I want to say is complication.
I agree with you because the founder, he said that security is the most important thing. They went through some testing. It seemed that it's more, they have more bells and whistles than the other swap site, which is the Uniswap. So this one has a little bit more advanced features. So I think that the founder said that it's very important that we have security lockdown and we take our time to working on this thing.
Okay, so then that would make sense why there's delays due to complications with platforms. All right, well so maybe when that gets sorted, then there'll be more clarity on the movement up of the Shiba coins.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Lisa. So nice to meet you.
Yeah, I just want to
go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to touch on all of the websites so everybody knows they can go and find Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine and all of these great podcasts that she has weekly, as well as her website, which is JillJardineAstrology.com. That's where you can get in contact with Jill and start booking your time with her, and make sure that everyone goes and supports SL369 crypto. She still has a couple of full access monthly memberships left that may be ending here sometime soon. I'm not psychic, but I have friends that are. And and then I also have my my Patreon that I'm very grateful for the members and the support that we have there. And you guys can also find me on YouTube. So just want to say thank you to everybody. And thank you so much, Jill, for this time, and SL for your input and all you do to bring these great people to our community. So everybody remember to love one another, and we will see you next time with SL369, and I'm doing some price predictions. Take care.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, SL. Thank you, everybody.
See you later.
Namaste.